In comparison, nuclear and renewable energy. The Philippine government has been exploring nuclear and renewable energy or RE sources as a means to augment the country's energy supply while mitigating carbon emissions. Both sources can offset fossil fuel emissions and diversify the energy mix in order to reduce overdependence on conventional sources. However, planning for the Philippine energy sector requires examining both resources and their corresponding pros and cons. For nuclear plants, we know that they can be available 24/7, but their flexibility or ramping capabilities are dependent on technology design. More modern designs are also highly fuel efficient, with a global average capacity factor of 80%. However, building a nuclear power plant is expensive, and construction time has increased to 7 to 15 years due to stricter regulations. For example, the first offshore nuclear plant with low capacity was built in Russia in 2007, but only became operational in 2019. Initial construction costs for nuclear are estimated at around $232 million, potentially reaching $740 million as of 2015. The levelized cost of energy, or LCOE, between 2009 and 2020 for new nuclear power has increased by 33%. From a health and safety standpoint, no government has yet managed the safe disposal of large volumes of radioactive waste produced by the nuclear fuel cycle. Nuclear waste is highly radioactive and needs to be safely stored for up to 1 million years. This is waste that our future generations will have to be responsible for. On the side of renewables, RE is indigenous and abundant in nature. Its costs are already cheap, given that its LCOE between 2009 and 2020 has decreased. For solar, it came down 90%, and for wind, it decreased by 70%. It only takes 6 to 12 months to construct a solar power plant. An estimated $70 million is enough to build a 50-megawatt facility. However, a con of renewables, particularly for variable renewable energy or VRE, is their dependency on natural weather patterns. Solar energy will only be available in the daytime, and wind energy varies based on seasonal and geographic factors. These RE plants on their own cannot be available 24/7. RE sources typically have lower capacity factors as well, most typically below 50%. The global photovoltaic or PV market increases considering solar is the easiest RE technology to implement. In turn, large amounts of annual waste are anticipated by the early 2030s, according to the International Renewable Energy Agency. However, there is a way to recycle and repurpose these PVs at the end of their roughly 30-year lifetime. The value of the recovered material could exceed $15 billion by 2050. Each resource has its own strengths and weaknesses. However, these also depend on specific country contexts and how technologies are applied. On top of these pros and cons, we have to consider the Philippine context and the examination of both resources. There are no uranium mines in the country. This means that if we go the nuclear route, the Philippines has to import the resource and would be vulnerable to global price fluctuations and geopolitical events. On the other hand, the Philippines has abundant indigenous RE sources, immune to any changes in the global market. This will reinforce the country's energy security. The Ukraine-Russia war is also causing volatile international fuel prices, and the depletion of the Malampaya gas field in northwest Palawan has stressed the need for additional power supply capacity as soon as possible. What we need are power plants that can be constructed and commissioned in the shortest amount of time possible to aid power supply woes. The long lead time and uncertain delays in construction of nuclear power plants show that it might not be the most practical solution. Nuclear power is also inconsistent with the goals of the Philippine Department of Energy to modernize the energy sector. Modernization would require more flexible operations for the power system. A modern power system does not necessarily need all power plants to be available 24/7. What we need is the right energy mix that consists of different power plants that complement each other to meet the country's load demand. The bottom line is, we need to determine the right energy balance between all available sources, taking into account the power plant characteristics and country-specific conditions. We need to plan smart, maximizing resources inherently available in the Philippines to achieve a secure, reliable, and affordable energy system.